All right, welcome back to the 80 Star Basketball Channel, the only star basketball channel. Going to a card show today. So there's a local card show. Actually, not local, but local enough. Drive a little bit up in Fairfield. Pretty big show. BGS will be there. And there's a few dealers I always like to meet up with local. So I'm going to head up there today and I'm going to take a couple of cards to get graded. One of them being I have a couple of the Sidney Moncrief Koch cards, so I'm going to take one up there that I want to get graded, and maybe a few others, but we'll see. So I'm going to head up this morning, sometime after this video, and wanted to talk about some auctions that happened and talk about a story that I think we can all relate to over here. I'm going to start out with this one because I just found it interesting. Actually, I'll go back to it. I'll kind of end with the story, but did want to talk about some of the auctions that ended just because they piqued my interest. This was the PSA 7 that ended. This was a solid seven, and it sold for exactly the same amount as the last seven. So this was a surprise to me, and I honestly thought that that would go for a little bit higher. I didn't think it was going to go for much higher than 40 because, as I said, I think prices have bottomed. In some cases, I'm starting to see the trickle up in different areas, but it really comes down to this is January and there's a whole bunch. What killed, I think, this auction and these auctions right now is this is a horrible time to sell, but there's also a lot of we went from like no high grade stuff to all of a sudden everyone put up their high grade stuff at kind of the worst time. It doesn't really make sense to me, but I'm not obviously the seller. But these were here we had a PSA 8. This one go for 192, and this was just a fantastic. I've seen this copy in person, and this is just really exceptional copy. So this whoever got this got one heck of a card. And again, I think these sales are all hurting each other and stepping on each other. You have the over here, you have on Heritage, you have this 8.5 that's up right now. And this card, I think, again, this side has the little side things and, kind of there's a touchdown here. Let's zoom in on this puppy. Trying to get it in. Yeah, you just have the little corner stuff. So but they said this is, and there's also that line right there that they say is a print line. They say that is a print line, but that just looks like edge chipping. That's got a standard, but I don't have the card, nor did I grade it. So what do I know? But I would not purchase. This would be something that obviously is going to affect the sale of this card. So you essentially had just like this. This to me was almost like this perfect storm of people getting rid of cards. The high ones when they should have waited a little bit. And then what's funny is the story I'll tell later is the opposite. What I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is people aren't giving up like PSA 7s. They're holding. They're like, I'm not going to sell now. There's 0 point to it, which I agree with. Why would you sell right now? But you have you have these sales that all together at the one point will all kind of affect each other. So, and I think these went up because to get in front of this 8.5, I think people may have been thinking this is going to be not that great of a sale. So they're getting ahead of it, which I don't think there was a need for. You know what? I think people in the know this card, people that are watching these cards. And again, this I'm thinking is kind of the prime buying opportune time. And, that's just kind of how I'm seeing the moment and how I'm acting the moment too. I'm definitely trying to get there's some things I'm trying to do in terms of getting another 101. I've been saying that and working on it. So there's different things that I want, and I have different opportunities, just like all of you. So we're all kind of waiting. I will inform when it does happen. So I did want to look at some other things. I was like, what's a trend on some just random cards that that have been happening. And I looked at the CK26, and this card. I noticed one thing in particular. Again, I was surprised by this BGS 8 sale that went for 7 a few days ago. Looks like 4 days ago. I was a little surprised by that. I thought that was a hair high, but it used to be solid. So it just comes down to whoever wants is looking for that grade. These don't come up very often, so it might have been this might be a very solid sale. I haven't been tracking them, so my I'm speaking from ignorance essentially right now. But I did watch them before heavily all the time, so I'm trying to just gauge where those were at. Um, but you had this 6.5 with some 9 subgrades, right, going for 3,000 in December when things hit a low, and a BGS 7 for 3. And then you had this, the 6 for 2,600. So it looks like things kind of dropped back down, and it looks like they're picking back up a little bit, because now 5.5s are going for, this last one was 3,500, and then this 8 was for 7. So I think sellers might be striking in certain areas, and I'm seeing it with the 101 somewhat. But I think what happened was, again, this kind of panic that 8.5 isn't going to do very well. So in the mean term, if you have a lot of inventory, so someone might have unloaded that on Fanatics. This might have been the same seller as kind of the PSA 8. I'm not sure. But if you have those two, you're just looking to get ahead of something. If you see like, this isn't going to go well, and when you see a card in that you have a similar grade in, and then it's just a far inferior one, but people want to look at the last comp. They're like, oh, this sold for this, and that's what this card is worth. And it's like, no, with the 101 especially, you cannot do that. This card varies so much. There's different cuts. This card is unique. Most people actually don't know that there's 3 different cuts to this card, and there's multiple cuts, and so they just see a 7, and just like I've said before, they act like it's like a Wemby, something new, or hey, an 8's an 8. No, it's not. They're vastly different. These cards are so different, even in the same grade, and that goes for PSA as well. PSA is more consistent, I believe, but and BGS has just gotten killed. And I was like looking at this Barkley. And so another one to look at just to kind of see trends. This Barkley 8 is about the same as they were, a year and a half ago. BGS has just gotten crushed. And if I look at PSA copies, PSA 9, the one thing I will say to contradict what I just said, this BGS 9 is actually much higher. So it comes down to subs, and it comes down to what you're looking at, all about the subs with BGS. But when you come down here, this PSA 6 at 1,000 and this 7 at 1,200, Barclays are up, from where they were, and they're holding. They just kind of slowly went up, but they're basically gaining ground, just a slow trickle up. So great cards to get into if you're looking for something where you're like, hey, I want to get something, but risk. Again, I think things are pretty much de-risked at this point. So, good pickups, especially bags. One thing I also noticed, there's 2 new auctions. There's a 101 4 on eBay, and an authentic altered on eBay. And it looks like the golden one jumped up. The PSA 7 has bidders, and I'm guessing this one's going to go for 38.4 too. Might be a little higher if there's no 7s in this time. This has so long to go. This has a month to go. So, a lot can happen. And if there's no 7s that come up, this one might go higher. Just simply, a lot of people are they buy the grade. They don't buy the card. I think this copy is not as good as the other copy. This one right here. So whoever got this one, I think, might have the PSA 7 good deal. So they came in and got this and swooped and picked it up. So that's just something I'm noticing with auctions. Trend up or stalled, basically bottomed, or there's small trends up to things that didn't hit, they didn't run up really fast, and things are recovering. So that's what I'm kind of seeing right now, is just the overall trend. But there's not many auctions. There's a couple of low end. There's this PSA 7. There's obviously the Heritage one for 8.5. So real quick, this little story I had, I did in the group. I reported on a sale that was the BGS 8, which was a solid sale right here with great subs. If you go and look at it, it's right here, sold for 33,000. Nine. These subs are monster, which I'm a little interested on because it looks like it has a little edge wear and it looks, just edge wear. It looks like the corners, except for that one, touch. That's why it got a 9. It's got some touches on the corners, but a little bit of edge wear. The centering is fairly thin on that side, and but kind of normal. This looks like normal centering to me. So fairly normal card, just with high subs and a BGS, and everyone's thinking, oh, maybe this is a crossover candidate, of course. Do I think it'll get it? Yeah, it definitely could get a PSA 7. It also could come in a 6. So obviously you're just taking the gamble, but. I posted it in the Facebook group as a sale that did happen as reported. And both the buyer and seller actually responded. And the seller said, yeah, I kind of took it off. The seller said, no, going to hang on to it. And the buyer said, got a different story. The sale was canceled because it looks like the buyer said he just didn't want to pay eBay fees, which, with that high of a feedback, I would think that you would know what fees would be. So, this is a big thing to put up for sale. And I obviously understand that, having some buyer's remorse, or you see it sell and you're like, second thoughts, but, that don't put it up. If you're that on the fence, wait until you're fully decided that you want to put it up, because this is a major purchase by someone. Someone had to sit there. And I did talk to the buyer, and he said he offered 28 or low, and the seller had multiple offers. Seller responded with multiple that they had offers in the 30. So he actually just bought it now. So he thought for a while, spent all the time thinking about it, and was, finally went for it. And then basically was informed in the morning, like, hey, my brother already sold it. So it was a different story. So, obviously not cool. And I'm sure the seller knows that. And the thing is really, if you're going to put something up, just be really cognizant that this is people like spending time to look at this stuff and going for it. So, I feel bad for the buyer. I found a card that it really liked, and it's just kind of, but that's what happens on eBay, and this happens a dime a dozen. So this is pretty often, but this is a pretty big purchase. So that it's one of those things where it's much more pronounced and people know about. But I can say this, and the only thing I'll say this is my post in the group, is that at least the seller kind of knew. I'm sure he knows, like, hey, I didn't want to pay the fees, but at least he did come on and kind of own up to it, and didn't just vanish. So that's one thing that I did know. But put your comments in here. I'm sure we all have stories, but that was just something that sale did not go through, and I did want to talk to it. So anyway, I just wanted to cover a few of these before I went to the show. But obviously, kind of some auctions that ended that I wanted to discuss, and auctions that are happening. But trends, again, all coming into just saying that this is the bottom, and some things are trending up. Like I said, I think this is going to be a slow trickle up this year. And if you are buying 101s and you are buying, please make sure. I know there's some newbies buying. I've talked to two of them actually. Is please make sure that you are looking at the card, not the grade. I know a lot of guys think that they don't know much about the card and they think this is a normal card. So please, make sure you're looking at the condition of the card and check any options you have. So, all right, enjoy the rest of the week and the weekend, and I will see you at the next video.